Welcome to Chuck Show. He's about to show you how to grow. Welcome to Chuck Show. He's about to show you how to grow. Welcome to Chuck Show. He's about to show you how to grow. Welcome to Chuck Show. He's about to show you how to grow. How to grow.
Hey, all my wonderful friends. I hope all is fine and well with you and yours. I'm super excited today. Not only is it a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous early spring day, well, spring for us in the beautiful southwestern United States desert, but the plants are just soaking in the sun. They're enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. We have this beautiful crew coming in from Chicken Daddy's, the Chicken Daddy's calendar crew, and I can't wait. I'm so honored to be a part of it. You can check into our community. I'll be giving to our community notes. I'll be giving you more updates on that. You know, I can't think of anything better than to give thanks to the garden in ways that you wouldn't think that we could give thanks to. And one of the ways that I love giving thanks most of all is by getting the most out of any plant that we've managed to, that we're lucky enough to even propagate out here, and that we're even fortunate enough to have present and to produce for us. One of the plants that I think is actually a culinary underrated superstar of our garden are the onion greens. Also, green onions, also known as scallions. Yes, and I'm going to tell you now also not to confuse green onions / scallions with spring onions, because there is a big difference. I'm going to tell you about that in a little bit. But without any further ado, let's take a look at our friends, the onions. I hope you enjoy. I'm going to show you guys from start to finish what you can do with them, how you can store them, and how you can keep these things producing. Let's go. One of the easiest ways to propagate growth from a green onion plant like this, also known as a scallion, is by using a kitchen scrap. Kitchen scrap can be used by just saving the bottom 3 to 4 inches of a green onion that you buy from a store. I'll show you guys exactly how to do that. And I'll even give you a couple of tips on things you may not know about the lifespan of these green onions when they're in your refrigerator. You guys ready? I hope you are. Let's go. Now, besides being packed with vitamin C and other incredible nutrients, green onions are easily able to survive in some of the harsher climates. They can survive in some pretty extreme heat, and they can survive in some pretty extreme cold weather, which really comes in handy when we're in the desert trying to grow these things. I like them because they're super easy to take care of. They're basically carefree. You don't have to do much when they're out here. You just have to trim them, make sure that they're good, and if you cut them down, they'll keep on producing. You don't want them to get too long. If they do end up getting too long, it can kind of give them a harder casing on the outside. So in that case, that's when I like to chop them up, you know, either dry them and use them in stews or things of that nature. But when it comes to using green onions fresh, I really like to go from the center. And like most vegetables we grow out here, those center roots, those tender ones, those center sprouts, they are the most delicious in my opinion. Now, a few signs that I look for when it comes to when it's a good time to harvest these green onions, or actually when it's time, it's a little past time to harvest them. You see these weaker limbs, these weaker greens? Yeah, these guys that put up the good fight. But we can go ahead and remove those. It's taken a lot of energy for the plant to create them. They're not getting any thicker or any wider. And it's not like they're gonna get any more flavorful the older they get. As a matter of fact, I'm about to show you a few things to look for, like personally that I look for when harvesting them. So, and I always use, I always try to use scissors instead of pinching them, because I do care for the impact that has on a plant. I think like if you're more thoughtful about when you're harvesting something, it just means more. That could just be in my head, but that's just a thing. I like to live with it. So give me a second. I'm going to show you guys a couple of things to look for when you're actually cutting these. Okay, now let's take a look at some of these guys. Now, from the side that we cut, these are looking pretty good. But you see where we have this fading? You see this? You see these spots? I really want to, and I always prefer to, avoid. Let's cut those off. And I try to avoid anything that looks like that because it's just been too much stress, in my opinion, on that green for us to possibly extract any good flavor from it. It might just taint the overall flavor that you have from this batch that you are going to process and however you're going to process it in general. So those are just a couple of things that I like to keep in mind. So, okay, friends, we moved it inside real quick, and I'm just going to show you a few examples of what you can do and the outcomes, the results of using the methods of harvesting and storing your green onions. Now, another thing I wanted to point out, on the bottom of these would usually be a small bulb, the actual roots attached to it. As a matter of fact, give me 2 seconds. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. It looked like this right here. White bulb, roots coming out. Now, relatively speaking to the size of these greens, this bulb isn't going to get much bigger. Thus is the distinguishing difference between a spring onion and a green onion or a scallion. A spring onion has a much larger bulb, so it has a much greater concentration of flavor in that bulb. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Give me 1 second. Let me set this bad boy back down. Look at that divine editing. Now, there are many ways you can go about chopping these. Whatever is your flavor. I am not a chef, nor do I pretend to be one, but I do try to get a uniform chop. So one thing sometimes I'll do it like this. And if I really have the time and I really feel like just relaxing, I'll give them a nice little chop like this. It'll give me a nice little uniform cut in there. Sometimes that may take too long and I'm incredibly lazy, so I'll give it a fold over like this. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Come on, Chuck, you're better than that. Seriously, I'm not. My mind drifts. There's other things I could be doing. So, there we go. Here's another example right there. Now, whatever you do, especially when it comes to using a dehydrator, and I'll tell you a bit about our dehydrator that we're using in a second, you don't want to overfill your tray that you're using to dehydrate on. Here, that's enough for the example. Let me set that down there for a second. So what I'm saying is, you want to give your stuff some room to dry out. Now in this case, yeah, I know what you're saying. Oh my gosh, Chuck, these are so artistically cut. Man, you belong on America's Top Chef. Actually, you're not saying that. If you have eyes, you're not blind, you're not saying that at all. But in my case, this is okay because these are either going to be pulverized into powder or they're just going to be dried up and I'm going to put them in a glass jar. Or in this case, I'll show you how to store them in a plastic bag, which I would always recommend a glass jar if at all possible, so that they can be used forever and last for a pretty good time on your shelf. Now in our case, we will be using our Hamilton Beach 500 watt dehydrator. A few rules of thumb: always use your specialized seasoning tray, the one with the smallest holes on it in your dehydrator, and always use the lowest rack possible in your dehydrator. But when it comes to what to do with, the additional racks that come with it, very easy. You don't set them to the side. You actually use them all when you're dehydrating something so that you can get the maximum, not the maximum value, but the maximum, the maximum use out of however the dehydration mechanism is in this. And that was pretty sciencey, but not sciencey enough. So I'm just going to continue from there. On what temperature would I recommend? Well, on ours, like I said, 500 watt, I would recommend for our time, I'm going to go with between 3 to 5 hours. So we're just going to go with 5 because I like the way it turns out with 5. And for our temperature, we're going to go with, 120. So we're going to go with 120 for 5 hours. And I think ours is going to turn out great. As a matter of fact, I think I have some that we just finished. So let's take a look at that. Man, look, it's that good stuff. It's that good green stuff right here. This might not be the wheatgrass, but it's not a close second. It's not even a far second. Look at this. You hear that little crunch? That's how good that dehydration process worked. And once again, I did mine for 120 for 5 hours. There are some who would preset, who recommend presetting your dehydrator on 95 degrees for a few minutes just to get it heated up, and then go into that 120 for 3 to 5 hours. And I guess there's some difference the way it turns out different, but that's just something that I read. But you know, just play around with it. You will figure it out. But I can always use this for soup, for stews. I can rehydrate it, use it in all types of meals. I can dump it on top, use some on top of my ramen. I'm telling you, there are many uses, and that's why I said this is the most underrated culinary friend in the garden. It's so easy to grow. Here's another thing that I like to do with this stuff. And one of my favorite things to do, old school, mortar and pestle with it, to make some of the best onion powder you can imagine. And really, it throws your guests off. You like a little onion powder with that, and you give it to them, and it's not white, it's green, and the taste is magnificent. It's a lot more milder than the white onion powder, because as you see, we didn't use the white parts, the bulb part, in our onion powder. So in this case, I would harvest the entire plant, the entire plant, and I would cut off this white part. We actually chopped that up, and we would dehydrate this right along with the rest of it. Then we chop it up, we'd do the same thing, crush it up with the mortar and pestle, and then we would actually add it to this, and then it'd have a much more robust flavor like the onion powder that we're used to. Well, my friends, I hope you enjoyed that video as much as I enjoyed making it. Don't forget, all of these plants are your friends. If you're raising them, they're your family. Enjoy them, take care of them, respect them. Even if the underrated ones like onion greens, give them the care that they need and the love that they'll need, and they'll keep on producing for you for years. Man, I'm really looking for this photo shoot later on. And I'm not going to keep you guys waiting. But in the meantime, please, if you haven't done so already, click subscribe below. I'd love to have you guys along for each and every additional journey that we record from here. I hope you're enjoying the time that we're taking to put into these products. Don't forget our sponsors. All right? Please don't forget our sponsors, C90. Don't forget our sponsors, Blue Free Optical. And please don't forget our sponsors, True Aquaponics. Please look them up. Without them, these gardens just wouldn't be what they are. In the meantime, my friends, plant that first seed so that together we'll grow. Oh, last but not least, thank you to my brother Charles Hinton. Prince Charles, thank you for the wonderful opening intro. You the man, brother. We've been doing this for years, but they just now finding out about us. Peace and blessings, my brother. One.